Welcome to another Ziva Math video. In this video, we will learn about dividing mixed numbers. We've included examples of dividing mixed numbers by mixed numbers, dividing whole numbers by mixed numbers, and dividing fractions of mixed numbers. Let's take a look at our examples. In this example, we have 3 and 2/3 divided by 1 and 1/6, so two mixed numbers. In order to do our division, these mixed numbers have to be turned into improper fractions. And we do that by multiplying our denominator times our whole number and then adding the numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 more is 11. So 11 becomes our numerator, and our denominator of 3 remains the same. Then we need to do the same thing to our second mixed number. We're going to multiply our denominator times our whole number. So 6 times 1 is 6. Then we add our numerator. 6 plus 1 is 7. That becomes our new numerator, and our denominator of 6 remains the same. Now we're ready to work on our division. So for our steps for dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction exactly the same no matter what it is. So 11/3 is going to remain 11/3. Then we turn our division sign into multiplication and we multiply by the reciprocal, which means instead of 7/6, we're going to be multiplying by 6/7 because our numerator becomes our denominator and our denominator becomes our numerator when we multiply by the reciprocal. Now we can either go through our multiplication steps or we can look and see if we can do some simplifying here right now. And when I look at my numbers that are diagonal from each other, I see 3 and 6, and I know they share a common factor of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do some simplifying right now. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now when I go to multiply my numerators, I'll be multiplying 11 times 2, which is 22, and 1 times 7, which is 7. My last step is to simplify the quotient if needed. Well, 22 and 7 don't share any common factors, so I can't simplify here. But if I can't leave my quotient as an improper fraction, you are going to need to turn it into a mixed number. So if you have to turn 22/7 into a mixed number, remember we take our numerator of 22 and we're going to divide it by our denominator of 7. So 22 divided by 7 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21, and when I subtract, I get 1. So my quotient of 3 becomes my whole number, my remainder of 1 becomes my numerator, and my denominator of 7 remains the same. So my final answer is 3 and 1/7. In this example, we have 4 and 3/5 divided by 7/8. So we have a mixed number divided by a fraction. And our first step has to be to turn that mixed number into a fraction. And we do that by multiplying our denominator times our whole number and then adding our numerator. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23. So 23 is our numerator, and our denominator of 5 remains the same. And our second fraction is already a fraction, so we're going to leave 7/8, 7/8. Now we need to think about dividing our fractions. And our rules for dividing fractions is we take the first fraction, the 23/5, and it stays exactly the same. It's going to stay 23/5. Our division sign becomes multiplication, and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 7/8, which is 8/7. Now it's time to multiply our numerators. And we're going to multiply 23 times 8. So I'm going to come out to the side and do 23 times 8. I'm not going to try to do it in my head. 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 more is 18. So my numerator is 184. My denominators, when I multiply those together, 5 times 7, 5 times 7 is 35. So I have 184 over 35. And my next step is to simplify if needed. 184 and 35 don't share any common factors. However, I'm not going to leave it as an improper fraction. I'm going to turn it into a mixed number. And to do that, I'm going to take my numerator of 184 and I'm going to divide it by my denominator of 35. So 35 goes into 184 5 times. 5 times 35 is 175, and when I subtract, I get 9. So my quotient of 5 becomes my whole number, my remainder of 9 is my numerator, and my denominator of 35 remains the same. So my final answer is 5 and 9/35. In this example, we have 10 divided by 2 and 2/7. And in order to divide a whole number by a mixed number, the first thing I need to do is turn that whole number into a fraction. To turn 10 into a fraction, we simply put it over 1. So we'll have 10 over 1, and then my mixed number I need to turn into an improper fraction. To turn a mixed number into an improper fraction, we multiply the denominator by the whole number, then we add the numerator. So 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. The 16 becomes my numerator, and my denominator of 7 remains the same. Now I need to think about the steps for dividing my fractions. And those steps are to keep the first fraction exactly the same, no matter what it is. So 10 over 1 remains 10 over 1. Then I turn my division sign into a multiplication sign, and I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of 16/7. And the reciprocal of 16/7 is 7 over 16. I take the denominator and make it the numerator, and the numerator becomes the denominator. Now I'm ready to multiply my numerators and then multiply my denominators. But first I'm going to check and see if any of the numbers that are diagonal from each other share any common factors, so I can do some simplifying here before I move forward. Well, 10 and 16 share a common factor of 2, so I'm going to simplify by dividing 10 by 2, which is 5, and dividing 16 by 2, which is 8. Now when I go to multiply my numerators, I'm going to be multiplying 5 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35. And when I multiply my denominators, I'll be multiplying 1 times 8. And 1 times 8 is 8. So I have a quotient of 35/8, and my next step is to simplify if needed. 35 and 8 don't share any common factor, so I don't need to simplify. However, 35/8 is an improper fraction that I need to turn into a mixed number. To turn 35/8 into a mixed number, I divide the numerator by the denominator. So I divide 35 by 8. 35 divided by 8 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32. When I subtract, I get 3. My quotient of 4 will become my whole number. My remainder of 3 becomes my numerator, and my denominator of 8 remains the same. So my final answer is 4 and 3/8. In this example, we have 1/8 divided by 4 1/2. So we have a fraction divided by a mixed number. And the first thing that I'm going to need to do is turn that mixed number into an improper fraction. And I do that by multiplying the denominator by the whole number and then adding the numerator. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So 9 will be my numerator. My denominator of 2 will remain the same. Now I need to think about the steps for dividing fractions. My first fraction, no matter what it is, remains the same. So 1/8 will remain 1/8. I'll turn my division sign into multiplication, and I'll multiply by the reciprocal of 9/2, which is 2 over 9. Now I'm ready to multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 8 times 9 is 72. So my quotient is 2 over 72, and my next step is to simplify if needed. Well, 2 and 72 share a common factor of 2, so I'll need to divide my numerator by 2, and then I'll divide my denominator by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 72 divided by 2 is 36. And I can't simplify 1/36 any further, so my final answer is 1/36. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Ziva Math for more videos.